Do raids belong in a roguelite? And that's a question we're going to be looking into today, because Vellum has raids. It has 4-player raids, and they're not like just little boss fights. They're full-on raids. And as an MMO fan and someone who loves raiding, this is sick. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump straight into the core gameplay. We're going to pick a tome, go through it, and then we'll explain systems afterwards. Because I feel like at the core of any roguelite is combat. And if the combat's good, you've got a really good basis for building systems and eventually in Vellum, getting to raids. So, we're going to straight into this. We'll get into attunements on the top right here and why these are locked all later. Right now, we're just going to get into our run. Right here, we're going to click a tome, which are like levels. Hit prepare. It's then going to ask us to hold E and prep the tome. If you're in a co-op situation, this is where everyone would gather into the center of your hub area. You can have 4-player co-op. Absolutely sick. And then this is where you add your modifiers to your level. For this run, to explain mechanics and gameplay, we're not going to add any modifiers. We're going to go in completely clean and just show you the pure experience. Then we'll explain what modifiers do later on and maybe explain why you want to modify your runs. So, this here is the core elements of Vellum. You have the ability to pick a modifier like you do for most roguelikes. In Vellum is a little bit different because you get to actually pick your attacks, and we'll go through that later. So right now I am running a crit hit build, which every 4th attack I critical hit. Critical strikes then deal double damage. I have 2 abilities. I have a left click and a right click. My left click generates mana and my right click spends the mana. Quite simple. So then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to change up how these boons interact with my build. So right now, what we're thinking is probably extended edition. Flourish deal an extra 50% damage for 2 seconds. This is pretty good. But this is 2.5% damage for every page of power, which are these here are pages of power. So we're going to do this. Runs are very simple and basically just wave assaults. You do often get extra mechanics during the wave assault. Right now we've got a dual mechanic, so we're going to pop primary attack, which is basically a chain gun, and it generates mana, as you can see just to the right of my character. And then I'm going to spend that mana on my right click. For this specific build I'm running, it's going to generate a little planet where it's going to then shoot enemies, and then every 4th hit I'm going to crit. And as you can see with the minigun, that's happening quite rapidly. Generate some more mana, throw out another planet. And then we have got one more ability here, which is my Q. And my Q means every attack flourishes within a specific time period. So what we're going to do here is we're going to build up some mana. We're going to infuse it, because that's the infusion mechanic of mana is how you get benefits from your spending your mana. We're going to pop some planets, and then we're going to hit our Q, and you can see it's going to dish out some extra damage here. And then once the run is over, you then get a chance to pick more boons. Very simple. Basically the same as most roguelites out there. Eclipse is my mana spender, and Manifest is my mana generator. So we do Eclipse increases manifest damage by 50% for 3 seconds. We could say that my signature is going to heal me for 20 seconds for 4 health. I think we're probably going to go with the hot swap ability. In fact, actually, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to rewrite. I have the ability to rewrite. So we're going to rewrite. None of those are that great. Increases the number. This is very nice. So we're going to increase the number of planets we can have out. So we've gone from 4 planets to 6. One of the things that would be nice is if adding these things like double spaced increased by 2 planets actually increased the help text on the abilities as well. Maximize 6 planets upheld at once now, and not 4. Oh, we've got a legendary as well. So you have 4 levels of rarity. You have, I think it's called sorted, renowned, epic, and legendary. So manifest has a 5% chance to summon an entire ship. Let's do that. So everything in this game is very thematic. It's very based on books and writing and texts and drawings, that kind of thing. So right here, we are in a middle zone. So after you complete 1 or 2 combat arenas, you go to like a puzzle arena or a break arena or something, just to stop a minute, do a puzzle, take a little breath and go from there. So you can draw the sword. So we're going to hold and pull the sword out. Nice and easy. Knockback effects against you are reduced by 30%. That's all right. It's not bad. Can we do it again? No, we can't. Some of the times these areas have like little hidden secrets and treasures in them. That's quite nice. So we get to our next mechanic inside of a run, which is the font powers. So you've seen me pick pages, and they are things that buff you and your abilities up. Next, we run into font powers, which then boost up your font. Your font is your well of energy. It's the thing that you can buff up throughout one of your runs. What's the font giving us access to today? So we've got scribes, which is what I am. I am a scribe. You play a scribe. Double mana generation for the generator while above 80 stacks of wave upon rock. And then below here we say wave upon rock. Scribes gain 1 stack per enemy slain. So we kill 80 enemies, we get 80 stacks. And then our generator doubles the amount of mana generation. That's quite nice. Scribes permanently reduce their cooldown by 1 second per 30 stacks. I'm picking this. This is very nice. So how this works is you get 4 points to spec into your font every time the font powers pop up. And then if you are playing multiplayer, those 4 points then split between the party members, and you can pick and choose what one you want. When you're actually playing multiplayer, you can middle mouse click to ping the one you want to pick, so you can have a little bit of communication there, which is quite nice. So we're going to do reduced signature because my signature cooldown is quite long. Damage motes have a 15% chance to drop from slain foe. When collected, increase your damage. Your font summons crystals. Each crystal gives you 5 temporary mana. That's quite a lot. North Star. I think what we're going to do is start speccing into this mana regeneration. And then as you can see here on the left, we've got font powers, and our font powers here with our powers, pages of power here, and then the actual how far we are through our run. One of the things I really like about Vellum is the runs are quite short by default, but then you can keep going if you choose to once you've beaten the boss. So that you can go and have those massive power fantasies, but you can also just go in and quickly have a nice run, and if you've only got 30 minutes or so. Now we've got to our third set of mechanics for a run in Vellum, and that is you pick a debuff or a buff for your enemies. So what do we want? Damage Torn. Torn are the enemies you fight against. Damaging Torn shrinks scribe spells and projectiles by 10%. 5 stacks. Well, that's not great. Splice, which is another type of enemy. So the enemies are called Torn because Torn pages, and then inside the Torn you will have stuff like Splicers, and I think Reavers are one as well. So there's different enemy types within that. So this affects all Torn, and this only affects Splicers. So grants 15 barrier to nearby Torn when their barrier breaks. This is a tough one. Splicers arrive with banners that jump to other splicers on death. Each stack of banner gains more damage. I think I'm going to go with the barrier. Looking at what I've got here, I've got a little bullet from a minigun, basically, and I've got a planet that shoots laser beams. So I think this is fine, actually. I don't think that affects me too much. So we're into our next level here, and we're going to throw out a planet. And then we're going to start generating some mana with our manager. We had our ship trigger there, and again you can see this minigun's quite good because if you have effects that trigger on hit, it can be quite good. Shatter the crystal with spells. So that is the mini game for this or side objective for this specific run. See there, I'm popping my Q, getting some massive damage in, and gain damage based on your current speed, maximum plus 50%. Okay. Not too great, but it's just additional damage, so it's not that bad. Generate some more planets. get rid of these rats. You can hear the ships firing off constantly there. And we're just dodging enemy attacks, doing pretty standard roguelite mechanics here. And there's nothing drastically different on the surface right now, apart from the way it plays. Feels good, it's responsive, you've got a good amount of maneuverability, and if you build into it, you can go crazy with the maneuverability. Flourishing damage has a 30% chance to freeze for 1 second. That's very good. With the amount we're flourishing, especially with the minigun, every 4th hit, we can really go crazy with this. So we're going to pick the freezing as a bit of CC, and then we're going to go and pick doubling our mana generation there. And then what else we got? There's nothing on this row I'm too fussed about. Scribes gain 2 extra stacks, but lose 10 on hit. I get hit all the time, so we're not picking that. Scribes gain 2 extra from after killing 3 Torn in rapid succession. We do that. So we can. This is a way of us generating more waves upon rock, and then we then get our buffs a lot quicker. Gain 15 stacks of waves upon rock after killing an elite or completing a bonus objective. We'll start that. Yeah, so there's nothing right now that's drastically different from a normal roguelike. A lot of these are borrowed, adapted. Their thematic reasoning for being in the world has been adapted for this game, where we've got torn pages and tomes, and you're a scribe, and your character is a literal manifestation of a pen. Torn explode when slain. Negative effects from ravens last longer, and tangent damage will slam scribes into ground and slow for 2 seconds. It's nice that they give you little information boxes of what enemy is what. I honestly think explode when slain, and we'll just have to get out the way. That could have been a bad choice. Right, so what we're going to do here, so you can see the bar at the top of the screen is telling us how far we are through our wave assault. And that is going to spawn in a side quest when we get to a certain point, which it already has. What's this? We got to pick up a flag, and we got to get it back to the font. There we go. Stay airborne for 3 seconds. Gain an extra jump. Okay, so this is a type of page that is actually a quest, and it's if you can stay airborne for 3 seconds, you get another benefit. I don't think I have the jump abilities to be able to do it, so we'll see if we get like a double jump or something like that. We might be able to get that quest completed, giving us a little bit more of a extra benefit there. We're just spamming out our planets here, getting our flourishes or crit strikes off constantly. Right, gain 25% damage while foes, any foes nearby. That's pretty standard stuff. Grant Eclipse planet increases damage based on your distance, so we can try and get as far away from our planets as possible, and then them do 200% more damage potentially, and then press our Q for guaranteed flourishes, and then we see big damage numbers. So that would be cool. I'm honestly not a fan of indexed because I'm trying to spend mana as much as possible, so we're going to go with Eclipse planets, and we get another page. Eclipse costs 1 less. We get more planets out quicker. Flourish damage now inspire you and nearby allies. Increases movement speed based on flourish damage. Okay. Or we can have our dash parry, which reduces the next damage taken to 0 and do 100 damage to attacker. This is pretty good, but if I'm fast as hell, then it's probably not going to matter. Also, though, Eclipse only costing 1 mana. We'll do Eclipse costing 1 mana, and then we can start really boosting this up. So, abandoned treasure. Open the treasure chest. Okay. Well, right is always right, so we're going to pick this one. And what do we got? Release a flurry of daggers when your barrier breaks. Okay. I mean, it's fine. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's all right. And on to the next thing. Let's finish up our stack generation, and then probably... Is there something here that gives us more jump? I do not think so. So we're probably not going to be able to finish the stay in the air for 3 seconds quest to get an extra jump. And what have we got here? Splicers slow down the cooldown rate of nearby scribes by 50%. Splicers shrink and gain 25% speed. I'm probably going to pick this one. Reavers gain 10% speed, attack speed, and damage each time they deal damage. Ooh, okay, we're going to do... Probably just going to pick Splicers shrink and deal enough quicker. I don't have a lot of defensive perks right now, so I don't want something just slapping me hard. But this is genuinely what a run will look like. And one of the things I really appreciate is how fast they are. I know we don't have any modifiers on this, so it is quite easy because there are just no modifiers right now. There are no giant tentacles coming out of the ground and slamming. There's no rats being spawned in on kills. There's no zombies running around going like absolutely crazy. You can make these, and later on in the game you need to make these quite challenging to really get any benefit from it. Collect the widespread ink motes. Okay, well, let's go get these so we can get another... Actually, I don't think we're going to be able to do it. Oh, no. Oh, I missed it. Well, we missed out on a new page there, but never mind. Yeah, later on, you need to make these levels pretty hard to really get the benefits. Lots of enemies. What do we got? Taking damage reduces the skill. Oh, that's pretty good. Dealing 50% damage per planet attacking the same target. That's really good for single target damage like bosses. So, or we reduce our cooldown. Kind of think want some boss damage. We want to start thinking about some boss damage. And then our last row here, font, inspire scribes, jump higher. Oh, we should be able to get this. I think next run we get another 4, so we should be able to get that, and maybe we'll get our double jump. Projectiles bounce, torn prevents nearby scribes from jumping. Raver have size and speed every second. Oh, okay. We're gonna pick this. Makes them slightly easier to hit, right? Right. So yeah, this is kind of what a run of Vellum looks like. You can see me being able to throw out 3 planets at the start instead of 2 planets. You can see my damage numbers really starting to go up as I'm getting more pages, more benefits. My font power starts increasing. Was it collect the flag and return it to the font? Okay. Let's spawn some planets and then let's go. And you can really start getting to some silly combos here. And this is with only one of the, I think, 6 or so classes. You've got a magic type that focuses on dots. You've got a magic type that focuses on putting a buff on an enemy and then exploding it for damage. You've got this magic type that focuses on crits. You've got a magic type that focuses on minions. And I feel like you've got most magic types pretty cleanly sort of defined here. And even magic types I don't get to see very often. My favorite magic type in any video game is the one where you apply a dot and then explode it for massive damage. And I do not see that very often. So it's really beautiful to see that in this game. Manifest gains 250% damage, size, but fires significantly slower. I don't think you can ignore 250% damage, can you? I honestly don't think you can ignore that. What we got here? We haven't got any page that's like really broken. Manifest deals 25% to distant foes. Yeah, more damage. Our manifest is getting pretty chunky here. What have we got here? A caravan. We'll gather and trade herbs. Okay, let's go pick up all the herbs. And I think our next room is actually the boss. Yeah, it is. So after this, we can go in and I can show you classes. I can show you customizations. And I can show you sort of like the meat that is on the bones in Vellum. Oh, what does he give it? Casting Manifest has a 10% chance to reset the dash. Nice. We're going to go jump 50% higher. And, I mean, this doesn't matter because it's literally the last one now, so we're not going to be able to get anything. And this is a boss time. Boss heals for 200% damage, 200% of their damage done. A rewardless elite reinforcement to the boss at 80% health. Yeah, we'll pick this. I don't think that's too much of a problem. 1 elite, kind of fine. Right. Pop all our planets. Get our Q out there, do that big damage. fire off some more planets, keep that mana generation going. When we get up to full stacks of mana, pop our planets to keep them refreshed. 3 seconds and we get our Q. There you go, let's pop it. And we see we're hitting not for massive numbers, but we're hitting for a lot of numbers. And that's a dead boss. Very, very easy. Again, that is the easiest run we're going to have. From here, then, we can get a bunch of rewards, stuff for our hideout, which we'll go and have a look at now. New rewards, new cards, new pages that will appear when you're in a run, which is really cool. So we have this ever-expanding inventory of pages that we can pull from as we play the game. And then we can even spawn in some test dummies and test out our DPS. So we can get some planets rocking up here. Where are we at? 480, not very high, if I'm honest. Get some more planets out, and then we'll press our Q. And the damage just goes mental. Not bad. Nowhere near the best I've seen, but not bad. But yeah, so that's Flourish. And I think what we'll do straight away is we will go back to the library and we will show you the other types of builds that are in the game. Score screen here that shows you the breakdown from the different totems you've got, from the different pages you've got, which ability did the most damage, how much boss damage you did, that kind of thing. And if you're on multiplayer, you also have options to have a look at the other players as well, so they can see what they've done and they can see what you've done and vice versa. And then our awards from the run as well, which we will be able to show you what these do. Okay, let's go back to the hideout, or the library as it's called. Okay, so this is the library where we started the video. So the first thing we're going to see is we're going to investigate some of the icons that are around the side. So over here, we've got our daily quest boards, and we've actually completed a few quests. We've killed some reavers, and we have completed 15 challenges, 15 chapters in any tome. And from that, we're going to earn some more quill marks. We're also going to go into some of the signature challenges that the game has to offer. We scroll down to this one. Mend a tome with a flourish rate above 50%. Nice. Okay, so we're going to click this, and we're going to give 500 gildings, and we'll show you what gildings do as well. But this is a nice way of being able to sort of farm some extra currency for doing things that are really easy, either just loading up a specific tome or loading up a level with a specific ability attached. Either do some quests that reset daily, get some more currencies for just progressing through the game itself, that kind of stuff. And then they are still updating the game with more and more stuff, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. So from here, we are going to go and show you what we can spend some of our money on. And one of the most important things you can spend your money on is your looks. Over here, we have a fully, well, as far as I'm aware, free customization in-game with loads of different options. We've got the Rookie. We can change our head here with the Rookie. Ink Architect, which I actually quite like that. We have got some others which you can't spend in-game currency on. You actually have to unlock via challenges. So in a single flourish, damage a boss for its entire health pool. So when you had a look at my run and you can see how much damage I was doing, with that in mind, you can kind of see now where this game can go and how crazy things can get, because being able to kill a boss for its entire health pool with one flourish is insane. And that's the kind of thing that's really, really cool to pull off. And when you get the perfect set of cards, just insane stuff. And as you play, you'll learn what these things mean. Like, what's an atlas? What's a score? That kind of stuff. An atlas is basically a giant laser beam. You can go and try and complete some of these tasks in game and manage to get the really, really cool stuff. And that just means that when you get to multiplayer, you have some nice things that you'll be able to show off to your friends and others. Unlock Finalize for 100,000 damage. So I've actually unlocked one of those challenges from my favorite build. A Finalize is when you explode a dot on something. And then you've also got emotes here as well, where you can pull off in-game. Animations aren't that great, but it's nice just to have them in there. The other thing you've seen is we've got quill marks. which is the primary currency of the game and the primary way of pushing your character forward. So, in the game, we have our signature inks. Each signature ink is a class within itself. And we don't have 6, we've got 7. So we've got everything from blue ink, yellow ink, green ink, red ink, pink ink, orange, and teal. And each one of these inks plays very, very differently. And this is where some of the customization of the game goes crazy and really does have this era of being able to play any style you want, and there's going to be a style that fits everything. Because let's say you don't want to play Flourish like I've been playing Flourish. You don't want to have lots of little quick hits. You want to have a couple of really slow big hits. But then when the crit goes off on that 4th hit, every 4th hit casts of generation will flourish, you get a really massive flourish. And that might be how you want to play. And you can customize your loadout to do that in this game. And I think it's fantastic. So, back onto the classes though. We've got blue ink, which is all about applying dots to enemies like poison. Or in this case, it's called blot. And then blot then deals damage to the enemy. So your generator is blot. Your spender then creates a azure pool under the enemies. And then the azure pool lasts for 7 seconds and constantly applies blot. Blot is a debuff that damages affected enemies for 6 seconds. And then the signature spell, which is the Q, applies blot to all nearby enemies. So it's just constantly applying dots to everything. And then when you're in game, the pages that you get change depending on what ink you're using. So you will have very blot specific things, you will have very flourish specific things, and you will have very outline specific things with pink ink, for instance. Green is all about summoning minions. Red is all about leeching life and tethering yourself to enemies and dealing damage. Pink, which is my favorite, is all about applying a debuff to an enemy, which inherently doesn't do anything, but when you press your Q, it blows up that debuff, dealing massive damage to the enemy. Or orange ink is all about feeding a turret that just can get completely out of control and just cover your screen in giant laser beams. And teal is all about generating what this game calls plot armor and making yourself more and more tanky, and then you can fire off your plot armor, dealing massive damage to the enemy. So you make yourself less tanky, but then you deal massive amounts of damage. So there's many ways of playing this game. And then on top of all that, each one of those classes works with each type of generator spell and each kind of spender spell. And there's a few movement tech options as well. I was using recently the Manifest, which is like a minigun. But you could also use Draw, which is like pulse rifle or burst rifle in a normal game that can also spread out in a slight AoE cone. These are 2 different types of mana generators that work with any class. So it's all about personal preference and being able to test and find the best spells that work with your choice of playstyle. For instance, I'm not a fan of the foil. It is a melee weapon, it's a sword, it has a little bit of a movement dash at the end of it on the 3rd hit. I'm not a fan of this. I love Manifest though. I love being able to generate mana very quickly. There's also a D20 dice you throw out, and it does different things depending on what side it lands on. It either can hit massive damage, generate even more mana, explodes, freezes, that kind of thing, depending if you hit from 1 to 20. And it's good fun. I really do like the dice. I think my favorite is probably the Draw. I feel like its mana generation is slightly higher per hit, but that's just how I feel. There's a flamethrowers, there's giant lances, and there is a giant slash or cleave as well. And all these things generate mana, which you then spend on your spenders. So you have an AoE there called Blossom. Call forth a meadow of flowers to thrash nearby enemies. So if you want to hit multiple targets in an AoE, this is quite good for that. You have your eclipses, which are your planets. Put out a planet, blasts your enemy. It's got a lovely little video here of showing exactly what the video does. It's really nice. Passage is probably one of my favorites, where you throw out an hourglass If you hold it down, the further the hourglass goes, and then you can let go and it explodes and it leaves a giant AoE. You also have a number of movement options. I do quite like just a standard dash. You have foreshadow here, which is like a type of blink. You have another type of blink that's a little bit more targetable. You have one that's not really a dodge or a blink, but an increase in jump height. And then you have Ghost Wire, which is a little ball which you can use to zip around with. So lots of different movement tech there. And then again, these have different options in game where you will be able to modify these to do different things when you're in game with your pages. And then once you've picked a set of spells that you really enjoy using, you can go over to the loadouts. And you can create a new loadout so that you don't have to constantly remember what you enjoyed playing last Thursday when you had a spare hour. You can go in and create a loadout. So we're going to pick pink here, and then we're going to go over and set up a new loadout. And that way I can just hot swap between the two loadouts I've got. And it even here changing the cosmetic look as well, which I didn't realize before. This is super, super nice to see that. So that's a really nice little system for being able to go through and hot swap stuff. And that is a lot of the progression of the game is linked into unlocking all the spells, unlocking all the different types of ink, and actually progressing those inks further. Because there's one more thing that we've missed. So on here, it looks a little bit like a battle pass, but it is not a battle pass. It doesn't cost any extra money, and it doesn't have any cosmetics attached to it, I believe. This is your passives for your character, not any specific ink, but your actual character. So we can throw in a bunch of quill here and go up to level 17. Level 17 gives me an extra 5% damage. And that's basically all these are. Just little bits health regen, a little bit of damage reduction, a little bits of damage increase. These ones are quite strong. Second time you die in a tome, revive at the font. Farm up some currency, level up your Scriptorium, and that will help you progress forward in the game. Now, one of the things this also does is you can see here, it says access to a new role of neutral inscriptions, and there is also ones that I said access to a second row of signature ink inscriptions. So if we go to our signature inks, and we can then go to our inscriptions, and along here we have our neutrals, which just affect every single ink. So we have here more health, we have convert 1 mana to infused when you use your signature spell, and you can hot swap these at any given time, which is really nice, really allowing you to customize and play around with things as you go. And then as well as this neutral track, you've also got your signature ink tracks, where each one of these has 3 more slots you can pick from. So if we go to pink, we can see that I've got outline stores 10% more stacks. Outline is your stacks, so I generate more stacks through my generator and my spender's damage, which means I then have more stacks to pop, and then that pop leads to a big explosion. We'll generate 5 barrier per finalized taunt, which I'm actually going to change to this. This is really strong. And that is all the ways of pushing the game forward and the progression of the game. You run through the game, you do a tome, which you will start at the very first one, top left. You'll run a tome, and then you'll get yourself some currencies, and you'll either spend that currency in the Scriptorium. You'll be able to then assign passives to yourself or the ink you like using. You'll be able to unlock the rest of the inks. I've got them all unlocked. Or you will be able to buff your passives up through the battle pass kind of system, or maybe buy some more spells or movement tech to then mess around with in game. And when you've done all that, you can then use the dummies here and the scoreboard to then test out the build you're picking. So I'm generating stacks on this dummy, and then I can press Q, I can press Q, and it pops the stacks. And what we can do is we can get an hourglass out. We can generate stacks very, very quickly. Pop. And that is how pink works. We can look at the scoreboard and be like, yeah, I'm doing some pretty good damage. And then if we like that loadout, we can save it. But then this game goes even further, and I feel like that's just the way this game works. There's always seems to be one more thing. First it was running tomes, then it was exploring this library and seeing what secrets it had to behold. What do we got over here? See, over here, I've never been here before. There's races. I don't know what this is, but there's a race scoreboard. I have no clue. And then over here, what we have is the ability to customize your own little nook. So as you play through the game, and as you might have seen at the end of the last run I did, I actually unlocked some bits and pieces to be able to place in my own little private nook. So we can set up ourselves a little reading place over here. And when your friends all join your game, they will be able to see what you've put in your nook, and you can show off some of your rare pieces. Oh, that's cool. To your friends and your nooks that you've gone and collected. If you're an achievement hunter, that kind of thing, this can be really cool. And you'll be able to show off to your friends and other players what you've able to achieved in the game in sort of a visual representation of the actual game itself. And I think that's really cool. I think not only are you able to customize your character, but you're able to customize the little part of your hub world to really show off some of the things you've achieved. So you've got your character, you've got a build, but as you saw earlier, the tome I ran was very easy. There is another level of progression. It's not just cosmetic. It's not just upgrading your little nook in the library and showing off with nice little bits and pieces. It's not just making your character perfectly built with exactly how you like to play the character. It is also progressing through these tomes and beating them at the highest difficulty you can. And the rewards the game gives you for that. Top right hand corner, you can see my attunement is level 10. This means that I get more rewards for finishing a level. Now, it also means that if I want to progress to attunement level 15 and unlock the last row of tomes, I have to then beat harder and harder and harder tomes. And the way you do that, go into a level and you click prepare. And what this does is this loads up that tome's screen. And each tome has a different type of mechanic or font mechanic inside of it. So you might have a tome that you specifically like the font mechanic. There's ones that summon dogs. The one that we just did was all about killing enemies, gaining stacks and gaining buffs for gaining the stacks, things like this. So each tome has its own little mechanic. And then on top of that, what you can do is you can increase the binding level of that tome. To get to attunement 11, my goal, beat a level that is binding level 11 or higher, and I will go to attunement 11. When I am at 11, I will need to beat a binding level of 12, and then I'll go up to level 12, and then the reward bonus will increase from that, and I will be able to get more currencies and stuff like this to then unlock more and more stuff. What we can do is on the left hand side here, we can press random, and it will grab 11 modifiers that will increase the difficulty of the tome. Or if you really don't like some of these things, you can customize it yourself. So one of the things I really hate is lava pools. I hate lava pools, so I try and avoid this. One of the things I do not mind whatsoever though is zombies. So we pick some zombies, and the other thing is minor taunt, gain increased damage, acceleration, and cooldown rates. I don't mind this either, so we'll pick this. Now this one is pretty tough because a boss being counted as a splicer, a tangent, and a revin, or however that's pronounced, means that all the debuffs, all the buffs you're giving the enemies throughout the game, the boss gets all of them. The boss fights can become really difficult at the end. So we've got some more debuffs on the side of these that I've unlocked as I've played the game. So zombies gain more speed. That doesn't really bother me at all. And we can say that minor taunts have a 20% chance to spawn as a standard taunt. Yeah, not too bothered either. And we need one more binding level to really get me to that goal of 11. Taunt pages are more dangerous. Yeah, okay, that's fine. And we hit our goal there. So I'll get a new binding as a reward. We could go crazy. And you can see I get this lock. There's no point of me going to binding level 13 because I will not receive any extra benefits from it because this is locked at 184% because of my attunement level. When I increase my attunement level, I then increase my reward bonus, and then I will be able to progress even further. As well as this, as your binding level increases, you will also have other things trigger inside the level. So the dangers of the taunt bosses are ridiculous. And as well as this, you've got the danger of the taunt bosses are insurmountable. Don't quite believe that, But that is the level progression of the game. And as you go through and you play the game and you increase your binding levels and the game gets harder and harder and harder, and what you'll find is that the game actually ends up forcing you to do these binding levels to unlock extra things in the game. So, for instance, on the latest tome I'm on right now, if I beat it at level 18, I get a new bit of glamour. I get a new little bit of transmog or a new outfit, however you want to call it. And that is how you manipulate a level. You and your friends have gone through. You've kitted yourselves up. You look sick as hell. You've got builds that you absolutely love playing. What's next? Well, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned raids. The end game, the peak, the pinnacle of challenge. And I have to say, normally when a game is like, oh, we've got raids, it's like, yeah, all right. Okay, sure you do. This game's raids are actually a challenge, and I love that. They really did not hold back. So we've got this room here, and at the moment I believe we have one raid in the game, and there are more to come, up to 3. And you can go in here and you can try and defeat the boss. We have completed this raid on normal. It took us a few hours to beat it. Each boss, and I'll put some footage on screen right now, each boss has its own set of mechanics. Each boss is its own unique style. And it really took quite a bit of communication to go through and actually beat these bosses. Just before every boss, you end up getting yourself a new set of cards, which you can go through and pick. So the roguelike aspect of this is stripped down, not necessarily its mechanics, but it's stripped down in the choices it lets you pick, and you end up having to really think about, oh, how's this going to affect the fight? And as well as the pages it lets you pick, it'll then also let you pick a buff for the enemy. These things can affect the fights to a reasonable amount, where in this specific fight we have burst spiderlings no longer die after exploding, and it does change how the fight is quite drastically. One of the things that we found is that when playing this, we didn't know the mechanics of this fight. So we picked, hey, spiderlings not exploding, not a problem. We'll just kill the spiderlings. Not going to bother us. Absolutely fine. Well, it turns out they're really quite dangerous, and it's probably one of the harder things to have picked. And if you do die in this boss fight and the game gets you to restart the boss again from scratch, one of the things you'll find is that it won't let you re-pick your pages or the enemy's debuffs. So you're stuck with your choices. When you do reruns of these raids, you'll actually find that, oh, we don't want to pick this, or I don't want to pick that, or I do want to pick this, is really beneficial to you with that little bit of knowledge of each of the actual boss fights. We went in completely blind, but there is a totem outside the door which normally tells you how a specific thing works or what the boss may do, what enemies will be in there with the boss if you don't want to go in completely blind. But we love going in blind on raids and just chilling out and having a good time. So going into this game without knowing how much game there is here was a real sort of love letter to the roguelike and to us as a group of friends who love raids and love co-op games and love roguelikes. This game really came out of the woodwork, and we were like, oh wow, look at all these classes, look at the options we're given here. Oh look, you can really customize the character the way you want. Oh, there's a loadout system. Oh, there's cosmetics. Oh, there's challenges. Let's see if we can beat this. Let's see if we can beat that. And it really moved us forward in wanting to reach that pinnacle of what can we beat next, what can we beat next. We're having a lot of fun with the game is executed, and on the surface when you do your first few runs, the game doesn't seem that different from any other real roguelite. Thematically it looks differently, and the way the things are called is all really charming in the fact it talks about tomes and scribes and pages, and all the colors of every chapter. When you go through your level, the levels are called chapters, and they're all black and white, and they get colored in as the game loads the level. All of that is very charming, but on the surface it was just another roguelite. And then you start playing it and you start exploring it, and there was just one thing after another, after another, after another. And then it got to that pinnacle point of being like, hey, you've got there. How about some raids? And we were just like, hell yeah, that's so cool. And they weren't like this tacked on thing. They were this like pinnacle of difficulty, of cooperative play, of communication in some of the fights, of being able to know what you're picking, how your build works, making sure you're bringing a correct loadout to get sort of peak boss damage out. Absolutely phenomenal. Really, really enjoyed it. And to know that we have one more challenge ahead of us right now, which is the hard fights, and we are expecting it to be a challenge, because normal wasn't a pushover. It wasn't sort of an ultimate raid in Final Fantasy or a mythic in World of Warcraft, but it was challenging for an evening with your mates. So we're really looking forward to the hard stuff. And then we're looking forward to attaching our rewards to our characters, making ourselves look badass as hell, and saying, right, we're waiting for that next patch. You should never, ever, ever buy a game based on what they promise is coming. But my God, you can look forward to it. And that's Vellum. A game that surprised me in how much content it had to give, in the ideas and the executions of where it went. So, if you haven't already, picked up Vellum. If you like a roguelite, if you like a raid, if you like some good dumb fun with your friends, pick up Vellum on Steam. Links in the description below. And if you like this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, as well as join in our Discord, which link is in the description as well. See you guys soon, and thanks for watching. Bye.